Hey, Rick, how you doing? Eating light?
See the stars?
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome and thank you for coming. At this time, I'd like to call the February 12th, 2013 Planning Board meeting to order. The first item on the agenda are minutes of January 22nd and February 5th. Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the minutes of January 22nd as written and February 5th as revised.
Second.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Actually, I have to abstain from the 22nd.
Okay.
Because I wasn't here.
All right. So, Melanie, Pat abstains on the 22nd. The next item on the agenda is an approval not required. There are none this evening. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing. The applicant is Mammoth Acquisition LLC, site plan review and a special permit to raise the existing buildings comprised of 30,249 square feet and construct a retail pharmacy of 14,600 square feet and a bank of 3,000 square feet at 93 and 105 Davis Straits and 238 Worcester Court, Falmouth. Yes, Paul.
I request I be recused from this hearing.
Okay, you are recusing yourself.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before we get started with the hearing, I would like to read for the audience, for the benefit of the audience, the protocol. The clerk secretary will read the published legal notices. Then the applicant will make their presentation. Then the planning board members can ask questions for clarification. Then at the end of the presentation, we will ask if the staff has any reports or referrals. Then we will then ask if there are any questions from the board members, and then public comments will be accepted after that. And then I will close the public hearing, and we will take it under advisement for discussion at a future date.
Can't close the hearing tonight. We won't, it has to continue.
I may not close the hearing.
Right.
We may continue the hearing. All right, the hearing may be continued if it's not completed tonight. So, with that as a review, is there someone here for Mr. Secretary, for the notices?
Yes. Let's see, on Tuesday, February 12th, so that's tonight's meeting, sorry. When was this published? February 5th? Yes. On February 5th and on January 22nd, it was published in the Falmouth Enterprise that there would be Mammoth Acquisitions Company LLC at the location of 93 and 105 Davis Straits, 238 Worcester Court, Falmouth, map number 3915, 2500A00C, 27000. The site plan with special permits to raise the existing building comprised of a 30,249 square foot and construct a retail pharmacy of 14,600 square feet and a bank of 3,000 square feet on 3.12 acres. The time of the meeting is on Tuesday, February 12th at 7 p.m., Townhouse Square, Falmouth, Mass. Plans may be reviewed at the planning office from 8 to 12 and from 1 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. By order of the planning board, Jim Fox, clerk, and the butters notices were sent. And I have copies of the ads published on 2 weeks prior. Two different notices 2 weeks prior, so.
Okay. Were there any returned as non-deliverable?
No, they were sent by certified mail on 1/22/13, and there's no notice of anything returned.
Okay. All right, thank you. The next item then is a presentation. Is there someone here for the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, I'm Laura Moynihan, an attorney from Falmouth. I represent the applicant. We have the project team here tonight, so I'd like to just introduce everybody and then go through the presentation. We have from the applicant, Mr. Michael Kaufman, Mr. Jeffrey Kaufman, and Mr. Alan Zaff are here. We have Mike McGrath from Holmes & McGrath, whose firm has provided the surveying and engineering work. Dan Celine is here from Horiuchi Celine, whose firm has provided the landscape services. Kevin Patton is here for the architect for CVS. Rick Finuccio, the architect for the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod, is here as well. Jeffrey Dirk, our traffic engineer, is here. And John Falone is here from the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod, and he is the Chief Planning and Operations Officer. So we thank you for your consideration of this application. It is site plan review as well as a special permit application. The applicant has applied under section 240-51A-11 of the zoning bylaw, which allows for a special permit for construction in a business district with gross floor area in excess of 7,000 square feet. So there's a little bit more involved than a site plan review application. And so our presentation will involve showing you the building elevations, floor plans, the landscape. We'll go through the entire project. This project involves 3.12 acres of land, so it's a fairly significant size parcel in downtown Falmouth at the intersection of Worcester Court and Davis Straits. It is all business 2 zoned land. We have essentially 3 different properties, commercial properties that are involved. The existing CVS site, the property to the south, which is what's commonly called the Conway property. It's a commercial property with a few buildings on it. And then there's a residential property on Worcester Court, which now contains a house and a garage. And Mr. McGrath will go through the existing conditions for you with the site plan. So we have about 30,000 square feet of building area, of floor area that's proposed to be raised. And in its place, 17,600 square feet of new construction. So we actually have a net decrease in building square footage of about 12,000 square feet. 12,249 to be exact, which is pretty significant, I think, in a business district in this location to have such a substantial decrease in building area. There would be 2 new lots formed from the existing parcels. The lot coverage that's proposed is significantly less than what's allowed in a business district for buildings. The CVS building, the allowed lot coverage is 40%. The building would be 17.2%. For the bank building, the allowed lot coverage is 40%. The proposed lot coverage is 8.5%. The CVS reconstruction, you may ask, why is this being done? Well, there's a few reasons. The CVS facility now needs more parking. And for those that use it, know that when you come into the front area of the building, they could use more parking. So that's one reason for this reconstruction. Also, there is additional floor space that's being proposed. The existing building right now is 9,750 square feet. The new building is 14,600 square feet. A good portion of that additional square footage, it's around 4,800 square feet, will be devoted to storage. The current CVS building is lacking significantly in storage. They need to have the storage within the building. So that's one of the main reasons for this redevelopment of this building. The Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod wants to develop its branches in Falmouth. This is an ideal location for a main office branch building for the bank. You'll see the elevation plans that Mr. Finuccio will present. It's a beautiful building. It will be a showcase for the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod and allow them to develop their main branch downtown at this corner, better serve their customers as well. The Cape Cod Commission has taken a look at these plans. We were asked to send the plans to them just to ensure that they did not have any jurisdictional issues. There is a letter in your file which confirms that there is no Cape Cod jurisdiction here, and the staff has confirmed that. The Historical Commission has also reviewed the application because one of the buildings on the Conway property is listed on the Cultural Resources Inventory. So the Historical Commission has issued a waiver of the demolition delay bylaw time period. So they did not find any significance with that building or any reason that the waiver couldn't be issued for a demolition permit. Through the presentation you'll hear tonight, we hope after listening to all of it, you will agree and see that there will be significant benefits from this project. It will allow for a redevelopment and essentially a revitalization of this downtown business property and the economic benefits that flow from that to the community. There will be traffic benefits that Mr. Dirk will talk about. The most significant being the closure of what are now 6 existing curb cuts down to 3 curb cuts. There will be a relocation of the existing CVS entrance off of Davis Straits further to the south. So if you can visualize that entrance coming down more where the Conway property is now, that's going to be a benefit to the traffic flow on Davis Straits, bringing that entrance further to the south. The reduction in building square footage, I think, is also a benefit in the business district, and the potential impacts that can flow from redevelopment of separate parcels. You have essentially three separate parcels now. You could have a variety of other potential uses going on those properties. Restaurants, including fast food restaurants, offices, commercial accommodations, multifamily dwellings, private clubs. So there are a number of things that can happen through redevelopment of these parcels separately. So we think that this is a benefit overall in terms of the redevelopment of that area. There will be some significant landscape improvements, which Mr. Celine will talk about along Davis Straits and Worcester Court, and some increased pedestrian connections and amenities to encourage more pedestrian flow in that area, more of an attractive main thoroughfare for Falmouth. I think that the project will show you that the standards of the zoning bylaw on a special permit are met as a result of the project, that there won't be any adverse effects on the neighborhood, that the site is adequate and suitable for the uses. There will be positive impacts on traffic flow and safety. There'll be positive impacts on the neighborhood visual character with the new attractive buildings and the landscape. Because this is a special permit, the planning board has the role of reviewer of all aspects of the project. As I said earlier, has the authority to condition the project in a different way than site plan review. So as a result, we'll be going through all of the various plans and through the representatives that are here tonight. So the plan is to have Mr. McGrath, with your blessing, Mr. Chairman, now present the existing conditions and the site plan. Then we would ask the architects to present the building plans. Mr. Dirk would then talk about the traffic, and then Mr. Celine would present the landscape plan.
That sounds like an excellent plan.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question, 2 questions.
Yes.
Ms. Moynihan,
Yes.
what is going to be stored?
No, Rich, not yet. Let's wait until they make their presentation, and then we'll ask for those kinds of questions, all right? Please? Just wait. I think we'll find out those answers.
Good evening. My name is Michael McGrath. I'm a registered engineer and registered professional land surveyor. My firm, Holmes McGrath, prepared the civil site plans and performed the surveys. This plan is a graphic that shows the existing conditions. This is the result of an instrument survey. There are 3 parcels. This is Lot A, Lot C, and Lot 1. Those are the designations that are described in the deeds. To orient everybody, this is Davis Straits, Route 28. This is the intersection. This is Worcester Court. This is the entrance to the Falmouth Mall. This is the entrances to the bank that sits at the corner. And as far as what exists on the site, this is the existing CVS. It's served by a divided entrance off of Route 28 Davis Straits. There's also a 2-way entrance off of Worcester Court. The building sits here. There's parking both to the, what I'm going to call north, and to the west. North is actually in this direction. Behind the CVS, as far as its relationship to Davis Straits, there's an existing dwelling that has a driveway here and has another driveway in this location going back to an existing garage. And then to the south is the Conway development. This is a series of 4 buildings. They are scattered retail and office space. There's an entrance off of Route 28. There is a sort of a staggered driveway, and it runs all the way through to Worcester Court. It was staggered on purpose in order to not encourage cut-through traffic. There are 4 buildings on the Conway site. I think they were built in the 80s. There was an existing structure that was of some age. Now I'd like to switch to the proposed plan. Again, this is Worcester Court. I'm sorry. First it goes to memory. This is Davis Straits. This is Worcester Court. Again, to orient, these are colored the same way. That's the entrance to the mall, the entrance to the bank. And the proposed CVS is being proposed parallel with Route 28, so that the building is actually being turned, and it is a larger building than before. There'll be a new lot line, and this is the location of the proposed bank that is for the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod. We have prepared the site plan. The original driveway was in approximately this area, and it's being shifted in order to provide more distance between the intersection and the entrance driveway. It's still configured the same as before, which is right turn out and right turn in. There's supposed to be no left turns, consistent with what is out on the ground today. This driveway is in the same location. This is a brand new driveway to serve the proposed bank. The bank will be served by the common driveway in this location. As far as the site plan is concerned, there's 77 parking spaces serving a proposed CVS. There are 4 handicap spaces. There's an additional 24 spaces over here, and there's 1 handicap space in the front. In this case, because of our perception of what was needed, there is an existing sidewalk that comes to about here. So we've extended that sidewalk down this landscape island. We built another sidewalk, and then there's a pedestrian connection to the building, to the walkway in front of the CVS. Then we show the sidewalk coming all the way across. We have a painted crosswalk. We have a sidewalk that then comes in front of this building, and then it connects back out into Worcester Court. There's also another pedestrian connection here. So we've tried to pay close attention to having it be pedestrian-friendly as far as the development. This is in an area that there is currently municipal sewer in Davis Straits. And we have shown both buildings connected to the municipal sewers. There was a comment from the DPW when we have revised the plan to show that each one has its own sewer connection. As far as drainage, the site has been designed in accordance with the zoning bylaw so that all the runoff is contained on site. There is a drainage report that was filed with the planning board, and I'm just going to look quickly at the catchment areas. There's a series of leaching structures in here that we're going to reuse. We have revised, we'll be adding a note to our plans that these will be inspected and adjusted if necessary. There's a drainage area that comes across like this. This is carefully designed so that all the runoff here is put into leaching structures. There's a small catchment area in here, and there is a surface stormwater system in this location, and there's leaching structures for the front yards of these buildings. The existing CVS is served by the same type of leaching structures, and they have operated without any problems for years. As far as the site work is concerned, there'll have to be an approval not required that we'll submit after the special permit is issued, so that each building will be on its own lot. Each building will conform to zoning. I submitted revised plans today because there was a meeting in Town Hall approximately a week ago to go over the design with all the different departments. So the plans that I filed 11 by 17s that show a bike rack in this location. I also added, based on the input of the fire department, a hydrant that's located in this island and a hydrant located on inside the Route 28 layout. The reason for that is that it turns out that the water mains are across the street, and while there are hydrants nearby, if they needed to have the use of a hydrant here, it would be inconvenient to the public because they'd have to close off Route 28. So we added a hydrant here and a hydrant here. And there was one other minor revision where we added what was called a Siamese twin. A Siamese twin is it's a fitting that's on the outside of the building that the pumpers use to pressurize the sprinkler system, and it also could be used as a water source. And I believe that that describes the revisions. There was a very minor one here too, in that we had shown that to be less than the recommended width, and it's been adjusted. So I believe that that we have designed this site appropriately, that that this is an appropriate use. We have more than sufficient parking based on the needs of the client. The lots still conform to zoning, and I believe that that we would meet the criteria to be approved as a major plan review. In my mind, when I come back to this design, This currently, I believe, drains all out into Worcester Court, in that the grade in here is slightly above 24, and this road's at 23, so there's surface drainage in this location. That there's not a lot of catch basins in this location. There's very few. So I look at that this design of this drainage is a definite improvement compared to the existing conditions. This site is also within the recharge area for Little Pond. So what is happening is that this is connected to the sewer, this is connected to the sewer, this is not, this is on a Title V system. So by tearing down the buildings and building two different buildings and connecting everything to the municipal sewer, I think that's a definite improvement, because we've removed a certain untreated wastewater flow from the recharge areas of Little Pond. So I think it's appropriate next that I introduce Mr. Finuccio, who is the architect for the Cape Cod Cooperative Bank.
Good evening, Rick Finuccio from Brown, Lindquist, Finuccio, and Raber Architects in Yarmouthport. This project for the Cooperative Bank represents the fourth site that we've worked on in the last 2 years with the bank. The other two, we recently renovated and expanded the East Dennis branch right on Route 6A in East Dennis, and did a pretty major overhaul of their Yarmouthport branch. And we're currently renovating a site on 28A in North Falmouth that you may have seen for their North Falmouth branch. So we've been working for 2 years to kind of develop essentially the kit of parts, if you will, for the Cooperative Bank, for kind of an overhauling of their image, their name change, coming up with a consistent pattern of architecture that works on multiple sites. So this site represents the first time that we'll be doing a kind of ground-up branch. This board is the other three sites. I just brought it for context so you could see how the other buildings are shaping up and how they are looking on their sites. The bank is very interested in developing kind of traditional architecture, kind of community-based elements, everything from the front entry porch on in through the cladding on the exterior. I think the Design Review Committee looked favorably on it when we were there on January 23rd. So as you've heard the numbers already, the building itself is 2952 in gross square footage. If you include the 3-lane drive-up canopy, we're at 3859. So that would be the open 3-lane structure. This is showing as a 2 drive-up lanes and a 3rd outside ATM kiosk lane. Essentially the building, I'll get to the floor plans if you'd want me to go through those quickly. It's a relatively straightforward single-story building consisting of what you'd expect in a branch bank, public entry with an ATM, so there would be a walk-up ATM as well as the kiosk drive-up. There'll be public customers, service area, a 4-lane, 4-station teller line. We have 4 interior offices for various branch manager and customer service representatives. And then your normal kind of back-of-house teller work area, drive-up teller workspace. There will be a safety deposit vault and coupon room as well. So a pretty full service branch bank. And I think the site plan that Mike McGrath had developed and was submitted to us when we first got involved, with only a couple of minor tweaks on our part, seemed to work very well from a circulation standpoint, from vehicle standpoint, from pedestrians walking to the branch, from perhaps the CVS side of the parking. So I'm going to just show you the exterior rendering real quick, and then perhaps just touch on for a minute the floor plan. I think we're going to make this short and simple on our end because the building is fairly straightforward. So these are the two views from the exteriors. If you were looking maybe a look from within the site, The bottom large view is kind of the corner view, as if you were from the intersection looking back with CVS to your right and looking at essentially two front facades. One of them most visible as you're leaving the Falmouth Mall site, and then as you're from within the building. So you can kind of see the elements are very similar to what we've developed in the other two sites. Very straightforward, kind of two crossing gables. Very much a building that's going to be seen from all sides, though. So we really have spent quite a bit of time developing all the exterior facades in a pretty consistent way. And then, as I said in the floor plan, we're 2952 square footage, gross square feet. And then we've got our covered entry, public vestibule, ATM, customer lobby, teller line, perimeter offices, safety deposit vault, and everything behind here is essentially the back house, teller work areas, server rooms, staff toilet rooms, and the drive-up window for the two tube lanes, and then the outside third ATM kiosk. And that's really all I think I need at this point to get into. I'll be happy when we get to questions to answer anything related to the buildings.
My name is Kevin Patton. I'm a senior associate at BKA Architects. And as you heard before, the CVS is proposed to be 14,600 square feet. The current store is just a hair over 9,750 square feet, and it is vastly deficient in two areas. One being that it is difficult to shop. The aisleways are relatively narrow. The merchandising fixtures are relatively tall, and there is inadequate amount of storage in the current building. Just for the record, I'm diabetic, and that's my pump. It's not my beeper. All right. The current proposed plan will increase our retail floor, allow us to reduce the store shelving fixtures from 72 inches down to 60 inches. That's just 5 feet. So you should be able to see over everything when you come in the store and have a really good gauge on orientation and where you want to go. The stockroom will increase to, I think it's right around 2,000 square feet. Currently today it's just over 500 square feet, and you probably noticed the trucks outside acting as temporary storage. We never like to see this on a site. Obviously the store is having a difficult time functioning and keeping its store shelves stocked. It's a busy seasonal store. It's busy all year round, but seasonally it can be difficult to manage for them. So what you see at the back in the floor plan is the stockroom located across the entire back of the store, the pharmacy function located in this area, and our front door located here, which faces the intersection of Davis and Worcester Court. And then in between is just your typical wide open retail floor, which is what we have today. The proposed building design is very similar to what we've seen or have done at the Bourne site, as well as the South Yarmouth building. Building is approximately 31 feet tall at the ridge, which is the primary roof height here. Our front door is here underneath this covered walkway, facing the intersection of Davis Straits and Worcester Court. Worcester Court is this side, Davis Straits is this side. So this is facing Worcester Court. The window fenestration, as you've seen on the other buildings, is handled in a residential style and makes use of shutters flanking the sides. And then we have dormers on a 7/12 pitch roof. Our sidewall height is about 12 feet, and then our secondary roof heights, which wraps the other two sides at 25 feet, so we have a pretty equal roof-to-wall ratio. During the design review, our compactor, which is an element or a program that we have out there today, which recycles all of the packing cardboard that's generated by the store. And design review has requested that we treat the enclosure differently, so we have come back tonight with a design that carries the wall system, which is a shingle and brick, and that would carry all the way around the compactor unit there, so that it blends a little bit better into the building. The other building materials are the light-colored or cream-colored clapboard and architectural asphalt roof shingle. The other area that the existing building is problematic today is its inability to screen rooftop equipment. And in this particular store with the sloped roofs all the way around on all four sides, we've created essentially a bathtub in the middle which will house all of that equipment and should keep its visibility to a minimum. And the last component is the pharmacy pickup window, which is a use that's out there today. In this proposal, it is an inner and outer lane. Inner lane serviced by a window with a drawer, outer lane with a pneumatic tube similar to a typical bank. And that's it.
Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind, yeah, I'll take the. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Dirk. I'm a principal with Vanessa and Associates, and we're the traffic engineers on the project. We did submit a full traffic study, which I don't see in front of you, a nice, big, thick document that, as I understand, is actually out for review. I know there's no Cape Cod Commission jurisdiction, but I think in terms of the services they provide to you, they're also going to perform a review of the traffic study as well. So I'll briefly go through the traffic study, but I believe before your next meeting, you'll have the benefit of some comments from the Cape Cod Commission, and hopefully anything that needs to be addressed, we'll be able to do that before we appear before you next time. But in terms of the site itself, I think Mr. McGrath kind of walked you through existing conditions relative to the site plan. We did the same thing in the traffic study. We measured existing conditions, and from our standpoint, we're looking at traffic volumes, pedestrian and bicycle facilities on the roadway, motor vehicle crash information, as well as the existing uses that are on the site. We did, obviously with the site being occupied, we have the benefit of knowing exactly how much traffic the existing CVS pharmacy generates, and so we can correlate that to if the building grows in size, how much more traffic would we expect. So we were able to do that. It was mentioned that there's a reduction in square footage on the site, so typically that would translate into a reduction in traffic. But in this case, the existing uses that are there, aside from the CVS, are relatively low traffic generators. So even with the reduction in building square footage, what you'll see in the traffic study is there is a slight increase in traffic because the intensity of the uses is going to change with the redevelopment of the site. And just to put that in terms of quantity, we're expecting that over the course of 24 hours, the project site would generate about 90 additional vehicle trips. So it's about 45 in, 45 out over what's there today. And during the peak hours, and our critical peak hours for the types of uses that are going to be on the site, it's retail use. So the traffic's going to peak really during the evening between 4 and 6, which is the commuter hour, and that's, as you might imagine, people that might be coming home, they're going to stop at the bank to cash paychecks and do that type of thing, as well as visit the CVS pharmacy. So it's going to peak in the evening, and it'll also have a peak in the Saturday when people are out shopping. So during those time periods, the net increase in traffic that you'd see on the roadway is about 35 additional vehicle trips. So it's not large volumes in terms of new added traffic to the area, but we do know that this is a critical intersection. It's critical for both the functioning of the site as well as for the roadway network. So we work very closely with the town and with the Mass Department of Transportation because we know that there is an active project that's under design, hopefully will be under construction soon at this location. So we wanted to make sure that in the context of the project and its redevelopment, that it fits in with everything the town's planned and worked hard on to improve that intersection, that we're able to integrate the project into that. And I'll walk you through some of the improvements that are proposed as a part of the project. The most significant of which is the reduction in the number of curb cuts. One of the central features of the project that's going to be undertaken at this location is access management. And so our project embraces that access management strategy so that we go from, if you count the driveways, there's 6 access points to this property in total. When the project's redeveloped, we'll have 3 driveways, and I think Mike walked you through those. Significant improvement in terms of the driveway on Route 28 that was mentioned as well, as we're moving it further away from the intersection, but we'll retain the right-in, right-out configuration, because as you're very familiar with this intersection, it backs up in terms of queuing. So the important thing for us is, of course, no left turns, so that we're not interacting with that queue, but also that as we relocate the driveway, the traffic that does come out, it comes out at the back of that queue. So that's an important thing. So the shifting of the driveway from about this point here down the road of probably more than 100 feet allows us to do that. So we come out at the back of the queue, so that's an improvement. The other improvement that's being done, Mike had mentioned, we do have an existing sidewalk along Route 28 as well as along Worcester Court, so we're bounded by sidewalks. So the important thing that we're doing is linking and connecting in with those sidewalks. Also, Route 28 is a designated bike route, so you heard Mike mention that we're adding some bicycle racks to the project. So our driveways, as well as the site itself with the addition of the bicycle racks and the way that circulation works with the width of the drive aisles, allows us to have bicycle travel and connect up to those facilities and then actually have accommodations for bicycles on the site. There is existing bus service in the area. The bus, I believe, stops at the Falmouth Mall, so that with the sidewalk facilities also allows us to have connectivity to bus service should our employees or anyone that may be riding the bus want to patronize the project site. We have that integrated into the project. The project, as I mentioned, because it's not a large generator of new traffic, what you'll see in the traffic study is that in terms of delays in vehicle queuing, you don't see any substantial changes because, as you imagine, with the 3 access points and traffic distributing itself out to those access points and to the roadways here, it doesn't result in, significant concentrations of traffic coming out at any one point. But what we are planning to do is, in conjunction with the improvement project that's being done, there's the need to acquire additional property, specifically on the corner here, to allow for better turning movement from 28 onto Worcester Court to head south. So that requires some modifications to the property lines and actually acquisition of some of the property associated with this project. So that's something that we're going to be basically donating or providing at no cost as a part of the redevelopment. And then we're locating our sidewalks and the other elements of the project so that nothing will be in the way of the future improvements that will be happening at the intersection. So that's a very brief summary of the traffic study. As I mentioned, you'll have a detailed review from the Cape Cod Commission, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to provide any additional information that might be needed as a part of that review. The driveways itself, I think, as you look at the traffic study, we've laid out queuing internal to the site and at the driveways. And one of the things that you see in terms of the locations of where the intersections happen within the property itself is that they're set back far enough from Worcester Court that if you looked at the number of vehicles we expect to be stacked waiting to come out, that we can actually store them internal to the site. It increases that queue storage so that I think the important thing from that perspective is that we can store queues within the site when we have queuing happening on Worcester Court from the traffic signal, and that queue doesn't get back to the point where it interferes with the ability to be able to either enter the property or circulate within the property. Because as you know, when you start to have bottlenecks within the site, that very quickly translates out onto the roadway, and then we start having issues in terms of the functioning of the roadway. So the site itself and its circulation and these internal intersections have been purposely designed to be outside of those influence areas. I think we'll hear about landscape architecture next.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Dan Soline, landscape architect with Horiichi Soline Landscape Architects in Falmouth. Our role has been to provide the landscape design for the project. We all know as residents of Falmouth that this is one of the most prominent, or will be one of the most prominent areas or portions of our business district. And so our focus really has been to try to make this, as beautiful as we can, preserving existing materials that are mature and handsome parts of the existing landscape, adding materials that screen the parking lot, preserving what we have that screens parking areas, and really planting what the civil engineers have provided as a very generous landscape, very generous landscape opportunities within the plan. Really, the most major feature of the landscape plan is a broad, essentially boulevard that begins on Davis Straits at this point, and really wraps the whole corner, extending on down Worcester Court. This is an area that is about 30,000 square feet of green space. Now, Attorney Moynihan described the overall area of the site as 3.12 acres. So 30,000 square feet, or 3/4 of an acre, is a pretty substantial portion of the property, which is really dedicated to essentially a green border to the whole development. It ranges in width from about 35 feet at the narrowest point here to over 60 feet at the widest. On this end, we're probably around 40 feet. So it's a substantial green space. Now, within that area, we're preserving the high-quality existing vegetation. All of the shrub massings that exist along Davis Straits and Worcester Court at the existing CVS will be preserved. We're also preserving all of the major trees, removing only trees that are clearly in declining health. Down along Worcester Court, in the area of the bank, we're removing trees that are in decline again, and also some vegetation that is a little bit more residential in nature, this being the location of a home, and replacing that vegetation with trees that will grow up to become to cover the area with a more substantial canopy, maple trees precisely. Also, sort of dotting the area are some flowering trees. They'll provide some spring color to the development. Some evergreens that will provide some screening at the edges. As you move into the property from that sort of boulevard condition, we have a very generously planted parking lot with islands throughout, planted with evergreens, with spring flowering shrubs, and with ornamental grasses, so that we really create a landscape that has interesting effects throughout the year. That will be just as interesting in the winter as it is in the spring and summer months. Further into the property, we have generous planting areas, foundation planting areas along the CVS. We have an unusual width there of almost 9 feet to work with. So we're working with substantial rhododendrons, hydrangeas, azaleas in those areas to make that, I think, a very handsome setting for the building. Similarly, at the bank, we've got the parking islands planted with evergreen materials that are very hardy in nature. The foundation area of the bank planted with junipers and rhododendrons, hydrangeas, flowering trees. Very importantly, down along the southerly edge of the property where the development abuts other properties, we've worked very hard at developing a continuous screen that begins with some evergreen trees at this location. Where it narrows, we have a hedge established along the driveway that can be grown to anywhere from 8 to 12 feet in height over time. We have red cedars around the detention basin here, and some flowering shrubs down along the edge, and a long row of balsam fir trees to provide really ample screening against the parking lot that is near the property line at that location. Preserving, again, as many of the existing trees along the edges as is practical. So that gives you, I think, an overall summary of the landscape.
Thank you, sir.
That concludes our presentation, and I expect the board members may have comments or questions, and would be happy to take those and direct them as you see fit to the various consultants.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moynihan.
Thank you.
So at this time in our public hearing, we can ask for points of clarification. Rich?
Yeah, I gathered that the storage area is to take stock that is now being stored outside, so that answers that question. But the next question I have is more operational. We have two major drugstores in town that I'm aware of. What's going to happen to the customer base of the existing CVS stores during the time when it is down? What are the planning on that, if any?
The plan is to have a temporary pharmacy in one of the buildings that's currently on what we're calling the Conway property, while site work and construction is going on the CVS site. So the goal is obviously to continue that service for people within the community and keep the pharmacy open.
Thank you.
Other points of clarification? Pat?
The entrance on Davis Straits. I remember when this originally was built that there was supposed to be no left turn into that and no left turn out of it. And if it is being built precisely as it currently is, it won't be prevented, because I've seen that innumerable times happening. So there, I think, should be some means of making it extremely difficult and extremely obvious as to this is what we mean, and no, you can't do that.
I hate that, because I always come in here and have to go out and come all the way around here. I live over here.
One of the issues that you have when you have a retail space is how do you get the tractor trailers here? And so one of the things that we do is we carefully design the pavement so that the tractor trailer can easily enter the site and easily travel through the site. There's not that many tractor trailer trucks a week. I think there's two. So what happens is that when we plot or designate the route, then this becomes a wide entrance. So what we've done is we've shown it striped. We've agreed with the engineering department that we would change this, and I haven't revised the plan yet, to have this come in more of an angle. And one of the other things that we've done is that normally I would have brought this island out to the existing gutter line, but I'm showing it at the proposed gutter line. This pavement is actually going to be much wider so that the gutter line is going to go from here to here when this road is reconstructed. So I have looked at how to, I've tried to minimize this, and this is a painted island. I realize what you're talking about, but that is the prime route for the tractor trailers.
Other points of clarification? Yeah, Pat?
Again, it's in that same area, if you will, because now we're talking about tractor trailers, and I believe right there is the pickup for drugs. And if you have a tractor trailer there and you've got people stacking to pick up prescriptions, that gets pretty messy right there, with a large tractor trailer trying to turn and get out of there, and maybe 2 or 3 cars stacked picking up their prescriptions.
I submitted letters to the board, and there are copies of the turning movement of the tractor trailer as it travels through the site. There's a loading zone here, there's a compactor here, and your staff has indicated that they'd like us to look at this a little better. There's no question that the bylaw requires us to have 3 spaces stacked here, and so there is an issue here as far as the staff is concerned concerning that loading zone, and we will revise it at some point.
Mrs. Kerfoot, could I just speak to that a little bit more? That particular area is something that we've looked very carefully at in the design plans. It is an important issue for a couple of reasons. The shipping and receiving area of the store, you've got that portion of the store where you have to have the shipping and receiving at the rear of the store. Then you have the pharmacy area, which is also at the rear of the store. So we've looked at trying to adjust those 2 areas, and they really can't be adjusted because of how the store works internally, where the operations are. So you have the loading area there, and you have the compactor. This particular configuration is used in other CVS stores. The loading is infrequent with a tractor trailer. The tractor trailers are CVS tractor trailers. They're not independent contractors that show up whenever they want. For this particular store, there's 2 that come in each week between the hours of 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. So the opportunity for potential conflicts with the drive-through area is extremely limited, if at all. If in fact there were 3 vehicles queued in the drive-through area at 10 o'clock or at midnight, what would happen is that the tractor trailer would wait until that clears. Then they would put a safety marker up in the drive-through lane, and the tractor trailer would back into the loading area. So we understand, that's been looked at. The town engineer has had comments on it. We'd like the planning board, I think, in looking at it, to carefully consider how there is adequate room to get around that loading area, how those uses, in this town, we don't want loading areas in the front of the store. We want them at the rear of the store. That's where we want them. We don't want pickup windows at the front of the store. So we have to try and find a balance there. We think that this can work. We think that the potential for conflicts, as I said, are extremely limited, if at all. Other deliveries that are coming into the store are smaller trucks that can easily maneuver in and out of there without conflicts with the drive or with the pickup window. Those types of deliveries are a couple of times a week for perishables, milk and eggs, a couple of times a week for Pepsi and Coke. So they're not large trucks, they're smaller trucks that come in. So this is not a stop and shop type loading zone. It's not a type of loading zone where you've got large tractor trailers coming in daily and loading and unloading on a very frequent basis. So for this particular location, where the loading area is, where the compactor is, and where the pharmacy pickup window is, believe me, it's gone through a lot of study. CVS believes it can work. It does work in other stores, and we'd like the planning board to look at it as it is, and we'd be happy to take your comments. But it is a very difficult issue because moving these uses around the building is not going to work for the internal operation of the store.
Other points of clarification? Jim?
I just have a question. I think I know the answer. That we're really here just doing a site plan review, and any comments on the architecture are not in our purview.
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, do that for you, Brian. I mean,
Yes and no, Jim. It is to this point where, the architecture, you can't get into specific details of the architecture, but you can take a look at it and see if it fits the neighborhood. More generic level look at the architecture. I know you guys haven't, I never realized the board members haven't seen a special permit before, so I will make sure I brief the board members exactly what your criteria are required you to see. But you did get to look at the architecture a little bit.
Can I comment on it then? Sure, go ahead.
I would wait till
Okay.
everything's in front of you and then the board can have a full discussion.
Other points of clarification? Yes, Pat?
I do have a number of things. Again, in regard to the pharmacy pickup window, it was referred to that you have, fortunately, the traffic statistics, and I think you also then have, if I could call it the traffic statistics for picking up prescription. Is there a necessity to have dual pickup capacity, or would one window be sufficient? And I totally blanked on anything. I'm just asking that for the potential of broadening the tractor trailer.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Michael Kaufman. The outside lane is not a pickup facility. The outside lane is only a drop-off facility for paper prescriptions. So if somebody, again, coming from their physician, wants to drop the prescription off at the pharmacy, and there's a couple of cars in the pickup window, they can just drive up to the outside lane, use the pneumatic tube. So there isn't the same volume, there isn't the same transactions that go on in the inside window. It's purely a convenience item.
It's a quick pass-through, in other words. Okay.
And I think overall, for anybody that uses this CVS, you could see that, I think, as an obvious benefit, because you're waiting in the line and all you want to do is drop off a prescription quickly. So that's going to actually help, I think, with the queuing there. There'll be less queuing as a result because you've got less people waiting.
Okay. And another question that I have, and this has to do with the landscaping construction, I guess, because what I would like to know is, currently there are berms, and it's sort of a zero escape, I think. Are those berms going to be retained as they are? Because Mr. Saline said that they would retain the landscaping that is there. So are they essentially going to be maintained exactly as they are with the width, but the additional sidewalk linkages would be cut through?
The answer is yes. They will be preserved as much as possible, and I think that's to a very large degree, with very minor editing, to accommodate the shape of the parking lot or the path. But I would say that they're probably 98% preserved in their existing condition.
Okay, and that includes the one along Worcester Court as well as the one along Davis Straits?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other points of clarification? I have one, as far as the drive-up for the pharmacy, is the pharmacy pickup available after 10 p.m.?
Yes, it would be open. This is a 24-hour store.
Okay.
So it would be open 24 hours,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay, any other points of clarification? If none, then comments from the staff.
The plans are under review, Mr. Chairman, so at this time, I reserve any comments. My recommendation would be to continue the hearing later on in this proceeding.
Okay. So referrals, et cetera, will be in the future?
There are referrals on the record here. I believe there's one from design review, but the ones from the engineers and the fire department and the village commissioner, we are still reviewing the plan.
Okay. All right, fine, thank you. Okay, then, are there any other questions from the board before I go to the public? Yes, Jim?
Well, just a comment, I think that the CVS building has a lack of detail and lack of fenestration. I think it could be improved on.
Okay.
Do you have any particular?
Well, if you take a look at the elevations, you'll see there we got big blank walls with no detail. And compared to the bank building, the design is just much different. It's just a boring looking building.
Well, this portion of the building here, are these the two elevations that you're speaking
Well,
of?
even the front, my comment is general through the whole property, just a lack of detail and a lack of fenestration.
Take a look at that. The design review committee did look at these plans. We're required to go to them.
That's why I asked if it was appropriate for me to comment.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but we appreciate the comment. Just for the record, they did approve the plans. They are in support of the project. The fire department had some comments on referral about addition of fire hydrants and other matters, which I believe Mr. McGrath has addressed. The water, the engineering department had a number of comments, which Mr. McGrath has addressed, so all that information is in your file as well.
Just to follow up on that, from my perspective, is CVS getting away from the big black opaque windows, which I think have been somewhat traditional in stores that I've seen?
There are a few examples of those on the Cape. All the windows proposed at this store are clear, and you would have visibility into the store. However, in order for me to get the right or proportion that I'm looking for, I am dragging the window module down and providing a privacy shutter at the lower section so that it reads like a typical proportion of a residential window. But I can't have clear glass at the bottom section of the window because the store fixtures are in front of it. So I need to treat that lower half to 2/3 with something.
Good, thank you. Okay. No more questions from, and then at this time, I think it would be appropriate that we would solicit comments from the public. So if you'd be kind enough to take the podium, identify yourself for the record, and speak into the microphone. If you would like to raise your hands for recognition, I'll recognize you. Anyone that would like to speak? In the public. I don't see anyone interested in speaking about this proposal from the public. Last chance. All right then, thank you. At this time, we will either continue the hearing or we can close it. I think it's appropriate that we continue the hearing, Mr. Curry.
I asked the board to continue the hearing so I can review the plans with the town engineer, building commissioner, and we're waiting information from the Cape Cod Commission, some of the board comments I can discuss with the applicant's representatives. So I would make a recommendation that the board continue this hearing to March 5th, 7 p.m. hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second to continue the hearing until March 5th, 7 o'clock in this room. Are there any objections to that from the applicant?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? The motion carries. Yes, Ms. Moynihan?
I was just going to say thank you for listening and for your time. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming and for all of the presenters. Very professional presentations, and we appreciate your coming this evening. Mr. Curry, did you have a comment?
I will also try to get a convenient time for the board to take a view. Because of the weather, your view was postponed on Friday. I'll let the board
That view, a view means a site visit by us now. We all drive by it a lot, but we do like to go by it with plans in front of us so that we can have a better idea of what's being proposed. Okay.
So will that be posted, Mr. Curry? That's required to be posted?
I will, if it's a quorum of the board, well, if it's 1 or 2 minutes, you just want to go with me and what time is review.
Okay, just want to make sure we're not, yeah.
Well, I've got to post it.
Okay, thank
Okay, for those of you who are here,
He did.
I did, yeah. For those of you that were here for this hearing and presentation, you may feel free to leave at this time. And if you would hold your comments until you're a little bit farther down the hall, then it won't interrupt the rest of our agenda. Thank you very much. Would you see if,
You'll see
Paul
them.
will see the people coming out, yeah.
You'll see them.
It's funny, Viv and I were just talking about how we miss Christopher's.
Oh, what?
How we
Miss
miss Christopher's.
Christopher's. There was a restaurant on the side a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow, you guys are really going back. I was here, though.
There's your proprietors right there. Yeah, Barbara and Chris were here.
I've known Barbara since our kids, well,
Older woman in the back.
Yeah.
struggles.
She's related to the Marxists.
Oh, yeah.
While they're exiting, Brian, I have a question. The information that was in our packets,
Oh, yeah.
I know I've seen
it seems that there are some plans and so forth. Are they different from what we've looked at this evening?
The crossroads.
I'm sorry.
Falmouth people, you're right, I've lived with that Falmouth people.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
There's no staff report because the plans will be changing some more.
The large plans you have in front of you don't have the changes that the fire department has for the hydrants and Mr. McGrath.
Okay, and those are in here.
And those are what's-
So we have our own copies of this. Okay. And then the letter from Mr. McGrath,
is a response to the initial referral from the engineering division.
okay.
And that response will now be reviewed by the town engineer. That's why the continuation of the hearing, so that the town engineer gets to review the response to the initial.
Okay. So these are for our review
Everything is
on our own. Okay. I'm going to wait for Bob to return.
Find him?
He probably, since this was the only item on the agenda, he may have just left the building. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, as we continue the agenda, releases, there are no releases. Committee reports, does anyone have a committee report for us, that you're representing the planning board on any other committees?
Last time.
No? Okay, new business, items that you would like to be included in future agendas? Yes, Doug?
Is it going to be time to talk about the vision mapping again sometime soon? Is there any activity on that? Okay.
But it is on my list of things to do. I have it programmed in. Once the commission staff comes back with a report in the Spring Barge Road area, I'd like to advance those vision mapping discussions with them, so we'll probably look at some time.
Yeah. Pat?
Yeah, circling back to committee reports, it's just a one-line statement that the LPC has decided that the next elements are going to be housing, not limited to what?
Sorry to interrupt
Oh,
you.
go ahead.
But there's a little defect here in the agenda.
Oh.
That was posted. It just says LPC, and the public really doesn't have an idea what that means.
Oh, so scratch it.
I'm so sorry. I should say local planning committee update. So
Okay.
I would ask you to just defer it for now, and we'll bring it back next week.
Okay.
My apology, that's my fault.
I'm trying to understand, because it's on our agenda.
It's just
an abbreviation.
It's LPC.
Oh, LPC, you're saying
So
that
the public really-
that's not sufficient for the, I see, oh, okay, all right,
They might think it's ladies' purse conversation.
all right. Okay, so, all right, Pat, you can give that to us next. And
Next time.
You're right, and will we be meeting next week? Okay.
It's on my list of things to talk to the board about. I might as well do it now if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. The next two meetings will be next week, the 19th. Following week will be off week, and then we'll meet again on March the 5th.
Okay. In the past, have we sometimes not met during vacations just because of an attendance issue?
We tried to always avoid school vacation
Right.
week, but again, I'll apologize. We're going to have zoning hearings back on the first week.
Right.
And then have this week, next week off, and meet on the 27th.
Yeah.
So, but things didn't work out.
Right, okay. Is everyone present planning to be here next week? Okay, so no one's,
God willing.
no one's, okay, all right, and, okay. Correspondence, I didn't see any, Brian? Okay, and then if that's the case, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.